Station. I'm Warren Lawrence. We've got you till 10 o'clock this morning. We have Mark Friedman right now, and he has a great new book all about, a topic that a lot of people dread, a lot of people worry about, but Mark makes it very easy in his new book. It's that familiar word, retirement, and the new book is called Retiring for the Genius, your blueprint for planning a comfortable retirement. And Mark, good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you. What a great book. Easy to read, easy to figure out, nothing really difficult here.
Yeah, there are thousands of retirement books out on the shelves these days. You can find them anywhere you want. But what we tried to do is, this is part of a new imprint called For the Genius. You've heard of the Dummy series, the Idiot series.
Sure.
There's a new imprint called For the Genius, and this is their flagship book called Retiring for the Genius. Really designed to talk to this audience that's, say, 50 plus, those that are planning retirement and those that are in retirement, and trying to give them some perspective on how they can do it on their own if they want, or if they want some help of a professional, how to go about finding one.
So, Mark, you mentioned 50 plus. Is it kind of important, too, that folks even think about retirement even before that and start planning?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but in reality, if you think about it, the best many people can do in their 30s and their 40s is participate in their 401k plan. That's the number one thing you got to do, or whatever your company-sponsored plan might be, and to be able to put some money aside. If you can do that, the 50s start to become the time when all of a sudden there's for many people, there's expendable money around. The expenses aren't necessarily as large, unless, of course, you got kids going to college at that time. But you can start to be putting more money aside for retirement. But all of a sudden you see this date in front of you that says, geez, retirement may be sooner than I think. And, for most people, retiring at 65 isn't what retiring at 65 was for their parents and grandparents before them. And so thinking about retirement and what retiring really means is a much larger conversation, and something that we try to address in this book in providing financial advice in a language everyone can understand.
It seems a lot of people these days aren't ready to retire at 65, and if they do, a lot of them are forced out because of that age.
They may be forced out, but there's a lot of people that still are, that many employers love to have them because of their experience and because of the professionalism that they bring to the business. But you're right. Retirement back from 2 decades ago was, basically you got married, you had your job, you had kids, you sent the kids off to college. At 65, you had your retirement party, got a gold watch, hopped on a cruise, threw the confetti, and sat on the front porch, drank lemonade, and died. I mean, that's basically what happened.
A little different these days.
Retirement today is not like that.
No,
we know that.
It's not. It's certainly not. Mark, suppose someone says to you, gee, Mark, I'm a nervous wreck. I don't know what to do. I don't really have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So, we take a look at this book and we learn quite a bit.
You do. I mean, the book really tries to help you stop worrying about whether you own the right investments. And unfortunately, the marketplace has created this scenario that says retiring is about owning the right investments, and if you can make a lot of money, you'll succeed. Well, you have to stop thinking like that. You have to start with really taking a full assessment of your overall financial life. And what this book does, what Retiring for the Genius does, is help you do this step by step. And the first thing you need to do is take accountability of where you stand right now. Don't worry about what it's going to look like in the past. Don't worry about what it looked like in the past or what it will look like in the future. Take a snapshot of now. And that includes, accounting for money that you have in the bank, the value of your house, the value of cash value of life insurance policies that many people forget about. Whether it's an annuity or a 401k or Social Security or whatever it might be, you have to account for everything, not just your 401k account.
So you are president and CEO of Friedman Financial, a company that you have in Peabody, Massachusetts. And I see you've hosted a radio show, too, called Dollars and Cents. That's interesting. What's that about? We've
been doing Dollars and Cents for about 3 years now. It is a very popular radio station north of Boston. It's a local radio station, but it blows me away, the number of people that listen to it. It's really focused on providing financial advice in a language you can understand so that you can go out and start planning and thinking about your retirement on your own. A lot of the stuff that I talk about on the radio is what we've encapsulated and put into this book. The book also includes stories from my real-life practice. My father started his firm back in 1968 when the idea of a financial plan was really unknown. But my father has since retired about 7 or 8 years ago, and I now run the company. And what we do is in this book, we provide, and on the radio show, provide experiences, provide real-life stories that everybody can relate to. so that you can go ahead and be empowered to succeed in your retirement goal and objective.
Mark, what are some of the biggest questions that you are asked when it comes to retirement? What are some of the biggest problems that people, want answers to?
Well, the most popular question that people will have is, do I have enough money or will I run out of money? And I know that becomes, and that's an important question. Of course, we need to address that. But when you dig a little bit deeper, what some of the important questions that appear are something like, geez, I'm approaching retirement, and I know I'm not going to get a paycheck any longer, but I've been so busy helping out my kids with their expenses too, can I keep doing it? Or, I've got some older parents, and I know I'm going to have to help them. How am I going to be able to support my life and help support my parents as well? Those are some of those uncomfortable questions that people oftentimes don't want to ask. But through this book, I have a whole series of questions in the book that talks about the elephant in the room, stuff you don't want to discuss. And I try to help people begin these conversations so that you can really take a look at your own state of personal finance so that when you're preparing for retirement, you can go about it confidently, you can know what questions to ask, and you can deal with some of those uncomfortable issues that appear in a family.
There's so many facts, so much information out there these days of so many people that aren't prepared for this, that aren't able to save money. And unfortunately, that's the way it is in a lot of cases. People are living paycheck to paycheck these days. It's really difficult for a lot of people and hard to save money.
It is. I mean, when you look at some of the statistics, there are so many people that are still living paycheck to paycheck. I understand that when you're in your 20s and your 30s, as much as we might want to save money. I mean, I remember when I was in my first job, the prospect of being able to save money was something that I couldn't possibly understand. You need every dollar to cover your expenses. But as we get older, we begin to upgrade our lifestyles. And sometimes we've upgraded our lifestyle a little bit faster than we should have. And it's incumbent upon each one of us to take that responsibility, to take the accountability for ourselves, find the sense of it, the place of employment that provides us with the income that we need to cover our expenses, but also figure out a way that you're putting money aside for the future so that when that paycheck stops, you're not like some 40% of Americans who are solely reliant on Social Security for their income in retirement.
What do you tell people that are a little too frivolous with their money and they don't know how to save? And is there any advice on where to cut, what to do? What do you tell people like that?
You know what? One of the things that I oftentimes tell people is, I'm not going to go grocery shopping with you. I'm not going to go through your budget to tell you that, you can't have manicures done once a week and you can't go golfing once a week. That's your choice. That's your lifestyle. What I can only do is show the implications of what spending at the level you're doing is impacting the future. And so it's really up to each individual to figure out where they're going to cut. But I will tell you, one of the things that I think is the most undiscovered and most undiscussed item is a group of people that I specifically talk about in the book called the mass affluent baby boomer. These are people that want to spend between $4,000 and $10,000 a month. These are people that have a total net worth, including their house, of between $500,000 and $2 million. And these people, many of them feel like they're going to run out of money, that they don't have enough money to retire. But in the end, what I have to do with many of these people is encourage them to spend more. Because what they're doing is they're living a very frivolous lifestyle and not realizing the size of the inheritance that they're about to pass on to their next generation if they don't spend more and enjoy retirement more to its fullest.
We have Mark Friedman with us this morning. His new book, a great book, Retiring for the Genius, Your Blueprint for Planning a Comfortable Retirement. The book is out there right now. Very easy to read. Lots of sort of maps and all kinds of interesting things in this book to follow. Take us through the book a little bit more, if you would.
Yeah, well, the book is broken down into a series of categories. The first thing that I wanted to do is before you start thinking about retirement, you have to be able to put the foundation for a successful retirement together, and that means really taking accountability for what you have, what you own and what you owe, and also how you spend your money. And one of the things that I really have found of great success, and a lot of people have been giving me wonderful feedback on, is a recipe card that I have in the book that talks about how to assess what you will need to spend on a month-to-month basis in retirement. And we follow. You can follow those steps one at a time right through the book. It's very easy to follow, and people have this aha moment when they actually see that. But when we move into part 2 of the book, we begin to talk about the fact that retirement today is unlike your parents' and your grandparents' retirement. The fact that there's going to be a pension there for you, The fact that you have think about this, unlike parents and grandparents before, when your grandparents passed away, what did they leave to the next generation? Probably not a heck of a lot. There might have been some money in the bank, and maybe there was a house worth $29,000 or $39,900 that was split three ways amongst the kids. Today, it's totally different. People have homes that are worth well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They have 401k plans. They have CDs. They have annuities. They have investment accounts. And everyone is still, though, trying to live off the interest and the dividends. And in this kind of an interest rate environment, you simply can't do that. And what we try to explain in part 2 of this book is that the modern-day retiree can spend a lot more money from what they've accumulated and still retire comfortably and still also leave money to the next generation.
So, Mark, when a lot of folks retire, right away they think about moving elsewhere where, things might be a little bit easier. And there are all these facts and figures out these days. You can go online and find out the best states to live in for retirement and so forth. Is that a good idea?
You know what? First thing, it seems like a great idea, and it's not a bad idea either. We actually focus on that in actually part 3 of the book. It's what I call the elephant in the room, issues retirees can no longer ignore. And one of those happens to be, should we move? Let's say I'm in Boston, you're in Kingston, New York. Many people go down to Florida, and they say, should I buy a place down in Florida? Should I rent a place down in Florida? Well, that might sound attractive. It might sound better because there's no sales tax down in Florida, and there's plenty of sales tax in New York and Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of pluses and minuses that can impact both your family relationship, because in many cases your family is still up here, but you want to go down to Florida. And the costs, though it may be cheaper to live in Florida, think about those transportation costs involved with going back and forth, flying the grandkids down, entertaining the grandkids. There's a lot of different costs and things to consider. The other things that people also do is they say, well, let me buy a place. I'll buy a place down in Florida. I'll stay down there during the winter months and then come back up north for the summer months. Well, what people don't realize when you buy something down in Florida, you got to keep the air conditioner running every single day, even though nobody's living in there, unless you want to show up with a lot of mold and infestation in your house. You have major ongoing upkeep to that piece of property. So you have to look at both sides of the equation. It may make sense. It might make sense for you. You just have to look at everything and look at it from the perspective of your overall financial situation.
Do a lot of people understand the tax situation when they retire as well? We have to look at that, too, the taxes involved.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's one of the biggest eye-openers that I show in the book, Retiring for the Genius, is the fact that most people are nowhere near in the tax bracket that they think they're in retirement. I can't tell you how many people will come to me and they say, Mark, when I retire, I want to spend $100,000. And I said, is that before tax or after tax? They said, well, that's before tax, because I know I'm probably in the 28% tax bracket, which means I'll have to spend $72,000 over the course of the year. Well, I assure you, you are nowhere near going to spend 28% of your money on taxes. The average mass affluent investor, who this book is geared for, remember those that want between $4,000 and $10,000 a month in retirement, those with a net worth between $500,000 and $2 million. All of those people that are living that kind of a lifestyle, they're probably spending probably somewhere between 10 and 17% on taxes at the most, and that's a huge surprise. And we talk about a story of 3 different people, the Alberts, the Boyds, and the Cooks, in one of the chapters in the book. And it talks about how these are all neighbors. They all want to spend around $80,000 a year. And what they realize is that despite the fact that they all want to spend $80,000, each of them is going to pay a different amount in taxes based upon the way they draw their money to support their lifestyle in retirement. It's really fascinating. I mean, there's a difference between almost $5,000 each year for these people, depending upon where they take their money.
Mark, do you feel that people that retired from a good job, say 25, 30 years ago, are better off than people that are retiring right now? Were the opportunities better?
Oh, absolutely not. I think the opportunities are significantly better today. And anybody that still thinks that lives in the history, I think they're missing out on all of the great things that we've been able to develop over the past 15, 20, 30 years. Look, I just look at the fact, do you realize that the iPhone has been around longer than President Obama? People don't realize the fact how technology has continued to grow. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. President Obama has been in office longer than the iPhone.
Right. That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating to see how technology has developed. I mean, we are so much better off today, but we live in a much faster pace. We have to live at a much faster pace. That can be both good and bad. 20 years ago, when you retired with your pension, you had your fixed income, you knew exactly how much you could spend on a month-to-month basis. Today, retirees are ending employment and moving into retirement with a lot more money and having to make a lot more decisions. It gives them so many more opportunities. But if they make mistakes with the opportunities in front of them, it could be a dangerous situation when they hit their 80s, 90s, and 100.
So the book is called Retiring for the Genius. Pick it up, your blueprint for planning a comfortable retirement. Mark Friedman is the author of this great book for the genius in all of us. And I just have one more thing I just want to throw at you before I let you go here.
Yeah, sure.
I'm reading a little bit about yourself. You're a big Red Sox fan, huh?
I am. Well, neither the Red Sox or the Yankees can be all that happy with this year's season. So,
well, I think the Red Sox even less happy than the Yankees.
Yeah, you know what? We're just looking at, we did get a World Series last year, so I mean, we'll take that.
What a turnaround, though, right? What a switch.
Yeah, well, from worst to first to worst.
So I want to make sure you're a true Red Sox fan, even when the team is down a bit, right?
I'm going to the game on Sunday. I follow the team. A big Red Sox fan, big Celtics fan. And I'll tell you, I love the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry. I think it continues to get better and better each year. I actually think it's become more of a friendlier rivalry in the most recent years, as opposed to the more aggressive rivalry that existed in years past.
And, the Red Sox don't have a bad team. They have some good hitters, pretty good pitching this year, just something's not melding right.
Well, the Red Sox, in reality, I think what the Red Sox did is they cleaned house. They were sellers this year, and it's the first time I remember the Red Sox being sellers in a very long time. But I think it positions them really well for next year. And for the remainder of the season, we get to see all the kids play. And of course, some of those kids are doing really well right now.
And, of course, David Ortiz can't do it all, can he?
He can. One-man show he is not. But he's fun to have around.
Yeah, they're a fun team. They really are. And what a great park, too, up at Fenway.
Oh, I love going there.
Nice. Historic. Really nice.
Sure is.
So, Mark, thanks so much for being with us. And where can we get this book?
You can get the book on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or you can go to ForTheGenius.com also if you want to buy bulk amounts of books. And I also noticed that right on your website, maybe you know this or not, the book is right there. If you go to the website of your website right now for the radio station, you can click on a button right there, and the book is staring you straight in the face.
Perfect. Thanks. Really appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Mark. Mark Friedman, again, the book Retiring for the Genius, your blueprint to planning a comfortable retirement.